Tejo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he loaded the last medical supply box into his transport ship. The mining colony on Kepler 442c was always short on medicine, and someone had to make the dangerous trip to deliver supplies. Most pilots avoided this route because of the recent fighting between humans and the alien HFY Empire, but Tejo was not most pilots. The former Earth Defense Force medic had seen enough war to know that sick people needed help regardless of politics. He started his ship's engines and headed toward the rocky planet below. The mining colony sat in a valley between two mountain ranges, far from any major settlements. It was supposed to be neutral territory, but these days nowhere felt truly safe. As Tejo approached the landing pad, his radio crackled to life. "Emergency! Emergency! We have a cave-in at Mining Sector 7. Multiple beings trapped underground." The voice belonged to Colony Administrator Park, and he sounded terrified. Tejo changed course immediately. Sector 7 was on the far side of the colony, where the deepest mines were located. As he flew over the area, he could see the damage. A massive section of the mountain had collapsed, sealing the mine entrance completely. Rescue vehicles surrounded the site, their lights flashing in the growing darkness. He landed his ship near the rescue command post and grabbed his emergency medical kit. Years of training kicked in as he ran toward the chaos. Colony workers were everywhere, some crying, others shouting orders that nobody seemed to follow. "What's the situation?" Tejo asked Park, who was standing near a portable communication device. "Bad. Real bad," Park replied, his hands shaking. "We had a tour group in the deep tunnels when the quake hit. 15 people trapped, maybe more. The tunnel system is completely blocked." "What about rescue equipment? Heavy machinery?" Park shook his head. "The big diggers can't get through. The rock is too unstable. One wrong move and the whole thing comes down on whoever's trapped inside." Tejo studied the collapsed entrance. The pile of rocks was at least 30 feet high and twice as wide. Traditional rescue methods would take days, and the people inside didn't have days. They would run out of air long before then. "Sir, we have contact." A technician at the communications station waved them over. Static filled the air, then a weak voice came through. "This is Princess Kyvera of the HFY Empire. I am trapped in the lower tunnel with 14 others. Several are injured. We need immediate assistance." The blood drained from Park's face. A HFY princess trapped in human territory. This was a diplomatic nightmare waiting to happen. "Princess, this is Colony Administrator Park. We are working on rescue plans. Can you tell us about your condition and the condition of others?" "I have injuries to my left arm and leg. 3 humans are unconscious. 2 HFY have broken bones. The rest are scared, but okay. The air's getting thin." Tejo stepped forward and took the radio. "Princess, this is Lee Tejo. I'm a medic. Can you tell me exactly where you are and what the tunnel looks like around you?" For the next 20 minutes, Tejo gathered information about the tunnel layout, the injuries, and the available supplies. The trapped group had some emergency lights and a small amount of food and water, but no medical equipment. "We need to act fast," Tejo told Park. "I can get through with a small explosive charge. Create a new entrance instead of trying to clear the main one." "That's crazy. The whole mountain could come down. Not if we do it right. I've done similar operations during the war. The trick is finding the right spot and using just enough explosive to break through without causing another collapse." Park looked around at his rescue team. Nobody else had a better plan. "What do you need?" Tejo spent the next hour preparing. He studied geological surveys of the area and identified a weak point in the rock formation. It was dangerous, but it was their best chance. He gathered plastic explosives from the mining supplies and created a small, precise charge. The new tunnel would be narrow and unstable, but it would work. He also prepared a makeshift air pump system using mining equipment. If he could get air flowing to the trapped group, they would have more time. "I'm going in," Tejo announced as he strapped on safety equipment. "Alone." "That's suicide!" "The tunnel will be too narrow for more than one person. Besides, someone needs to stay here to operate the air pump." Tejo placed the explosive charge carefully and moved to a safe distance. The explosion was smaller than he expected, but it worked. Rock and dust filled the air, then slowly cleared to reveal a narrow opening. He squeezed through the gap with his medical kit and emergency supplies. The tunnel was dark and filled with dust. His flashlight beam cut through the gloom as he made his way deeper underground. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, he heard voices. "Hello, is someone there?" It was Princess Kyvera. "This is Tejo. I'm coming to get you out." When he reached the trapped group, Tejo was surprised by what he saw. Princess Chimera was not what he expected. She was tall like all Kethtai, with the characteristic insect-like features of her species, but she was young. Despite her injuries, she had been helping the other trapped people, using torn pieces of her clothing to bandage wounds. "You came alone?" she asked in accented but clear human language. "Sometimes one person can do what a whole team cannot," Tejo replied as he began examining the injured. The next 18 hours were the longest of Tejo's life. He worked constantly, treating injuries, managing the air supply, and slowly moving people through the narrow escape tunnel one by one. Princess Kivera insisted on going last despite her injuries. "A leader protects her people," she said simply. As Tejo helped her through the final section of tunnel, she grabbed his arm. "Why did you risk your life for us?" "Your people and mine are enemies." Tejo looked at her tired face. "Because it was the right thing to do. People in danger need help. It doesn't matter what species they are." When they finally emerged into the night air, rescue crews rushed forward to help. Everyone was alive. Some had serious injuries, but everyone would recover. As medics took Princess Chimera to the medical station, she looked back at Tejo. "I will not forget this," she said. Tejo nodded and began packing his equipment. He had done his job. Now he just wanted to go home and rest. He had no idea that this rescue would change his life forever. 3 weeks after the mining colony rescue, Tejo was repairing his ship's engine when his communication system started beeping urgently. He wiped his hands on a rag and activated the screen. The face that appeared made him drop his tools. It was a Kethtai official, wearing the formal robes of the Empire's diplomatic service. Behind him, Tejo could see the distinctive architecture of a Kethtai ship. "Lee Tejo of Earth," the official said in formal tones. "You are summoned to appear before Queen Velnara of the Kethtai Empire. You have been granted safe passage and diplomatic immunity. A ship will arrive at your location in 6 standard hours." The screen went black before Tejo could respond. He stared at the blank display, his mind racing. This had to be about Princess Chimera. But why would the Queen want to see him? The rescue had been covered in the news, but he thought that was the end of it. His friend Jin called just as he was trying to decide what to do. "Tejo, are you insane? You can't go to the Kethtai homeworld. It could be a trap." "They gave me diplomatic immunity," Tejo replied, though he wasn't entirely convinced himself. Words on a screen. "These are the same people we were fighting 6 months ago. They could be planning revenge." Tejo had thought about that possibility. The war between humans and the Kethtai Empire had ended in an uneasy peace treaty, but tensions remained high. Many people on both sides still viewed each other as enemies. "I have to go," Tejo decided. "If I refuse, it could cause diplomatic problems. Besides, I'm curious about what the Queen wants." "Curiosity killed the cat," Jin muttered, but he helped Tejo pack for the journey. 6 hours later, a sleek Kethtai ship arrived at the space station where Tejo waited. It was smaller than a warship but larger than a normal transport. The design was elegant with flowing curves that reminded him of insect wings. The Kethtai crew treated him with formal politeness, but kept their distance. He was given a small but comfortable cabin and meals that had been prepared for human dietary needs. The journey to the Kethtai homeworld took 3 days. Tejo spent the time studying what he knew about Kethtai culture. They were a proud warrior species with strict codes of honor. Their society was built around concepts of duty, loyalty, and debt. Queens ruled absolutely, and their word was law. He wondered what Queen Velnara was like and why she wanted to meet him personally. The Kethtai homeworld was beautiful in an alien way. Cities of gleaming spires rose from rocky plains, connected by bridges that looked impossibly delicate. The royal capital was built into the side of a massive mountain, with the palace at the very top. Tejo's escort led him through corridors filled with art and history. Everything was larger than human scale, designed for beings that stood 7 feet tall. The walls showed scenes of Kethtai victories and achievements. It was impressive and slightly intimidating. Finally, they reached the throne room. It was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows. At the far end, Queen Velnara sat on a throne made of black stone. She was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. Her insect-like features were sharp and elegant, and her forearms moved with precise grace. Her eyes, large and multifaceted, focused on Tejo as he approached. "Lee Tejo," the Queen said, her voice carrying clearly across the vast room. You saved my daughter's life. I did what anyone would do, Your Majesty. No. Queen Velnara stood and walked down from her throne. You did what a Kethtai would do. You showed honor, courage, and selflessness. You risked your life for strangers, including my child. Princess Kaivera stepped out from behind a pillar. She looked much better than the last time Teho had seen her. Her injuries had healed and she wore formal court clothing. She bowed to him, which surprised everyone in the room. This human saved not just my life but the lives of 14 others, the princess said. He could have escaped alone, but he stayed until everyone was safe. He treated my injuries with skill and kindness. Queen Velnara nodded. In our culture, a life debt must be repaid. You saved the heir to the Kethtai Empire. Name your reward, and it shall be yours. Teho had expected this might happen. He had read about Kethtai honor codes during the journey. Your Majesty, I don't want a reward. I was just doing my job. The Queen's expression changed. Her advisors began whispering among themselves. Commander Drakvin, the Queen's military advisor, stepped forward. This is unacceptable, Drakvin said. A life debt cannot remain unpaid. It is against our most sacred laws. I offer you land, the Queen said. A continent on one of our colony worlds. You would rule as a lord under the Empire. I appreciate the offer, but I must decline. Wealth, then. Enough gold and precious metals to buy a fleet of ships. Thank you, but no. A position in our military. You would command a battle group and hold the rank of general. Teho shook his head again. The Queen looked genuinely confused. In Kethtai culture, everyone wanted power, wealth, or status. A person who refused all three was almost incomprehensible. I don't understand, Queen Velnara said. What do you want? Nothing, Your Majesty. I helped because it was right. People were in danger and I had the skills to help them. That's all. Princess Kaivera spoke quietly to her mother in the Kethtai language. The Queen listened, then looked at Teho with new interest. My daughter says you told her that helping others is what makes someone truly strong. She says you believe strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That's right. This is not how humans normally think, according to our intelligence reports. Maybe your intelligence reports are wrong, Teho suggested carefully. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she made a decision that would change everything. If you will not accept traditional payment, then I must find another way to honor the debt. You will remain here as my guest while I consider the proper response. The debt must be paid, Li Teho. Our honor demands it. As guards escorted him to luxurious guest quarters, Teho wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had saved a life and somehow ended up trapped by alien honor codes. Outside his window, the alien city sparkled in the light of 3 moons, beautiful and strange. He had no idea that Queen Velnara was already forming a plan that would bind their fates together forever.
Teho had been a guest in the royal palace for 2 weeks when Queen Velnara summoned him to a private audience.
Instead of the formal throne room, she met him in her personal study. The room was smaller and more comfortable, filled with books and star charts. The Queen stood by a large window, looking out at her city below. You have been patient with our customs, she said without turning around. Most humans would have demanded to leave by now. I'm learning about your culture. It's fascinating, actually. Queen Velnara turned to face him. I have made my decision about the life debt. Tomorrow I will announce it to the court. What have you decided? You will become my mate and permanent protector. The ceremony will take place in 1 month. Teho felt like someone had hit him with a shock weapon. I'm sorry, what? You refused wealth, land, and position. The only payment worthy of saving my daughter's life is my own commitment. You will become the Queen's consort with all the rights and responsibilities that position carries. Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I can't accept that. Why not? You would be the second most powerful being in the Empire. You would help me rule over billions of people across hundreds of worlds. Teho struggled to find the right words. Because I'm human. Because we barely know each other. Because this isn't how marriage should work. Marriage? Queen Velnara looked confused. This is not about human marriage customs. This is about honor and duty. I have chosen you as my mate because you proved your worth by saving Kivera. But what about love? What about choice? Love is a luxury that queens cannot afford. Choice is for those who do not bear the weight of empire. The Queen's voice softened slightly. But I respect you, Li Teho. That is more than most royal marriages begin with. Before Teho could respond, Alarms began sounding throughout the palace. Commander Drakvin burst into the room without waiting for permission. "My queen, we have a serious problem. News of your decision has leaked to the court. Several noble houses are calling for an emergency council meeting. Let them call their meeting," Queen Velnara said calmly. "You don't understand. Lord Rathkin is claiming that mating with a human violates the ancient laws. He's gathering support to challenge your authority." The queen's expression darkened. In Kethtai society, challenging the queen's authority was close to treason, but if enough nobles supported the challenge, it could lead to civil war. "This is my fault," Teho said. "I should leave. Go back to human space before this gets worse." "Absolutely not," Queen Velnara replied firmly. "That would dishonor both of us. The debt must be paid, and my decision stands." Princess Kivera entered the study, having heard the alarms. "Mother, the situation is worse than Drakvin reported. Half the court is in an uproar. They're saying you've lost your mind. And what do you think, daughter?" "I think you're the wisest person I know," Kivera said. "Teho saved my life when your own nobles would have left me to die rather than risk themselves. He has more honor than any of them." Queen Velnara moved to a wall display that showed a map of the Empire. Red dots marked areas where there had been recent unrest. "The Empire is changing, whether the nobles like it or not. The war with humanity taught us that we cannot survive alone. We need allies, not enemies. So this is political?" Teho asked. "Everything a queen does is political, but that doesn't make it less real." She looked at him directly. "I will not lie to you, Li Teho. I chose you partly because you saved my daughter, and partly because you represent a bridge between our peoples. But I also chose you because I find you interesting." "Interesting? You think differently than anyone I have ever met. You see solutions where others see only problems. You value life above victory. These are qualities I need in a partner and advisor." Commander Drakvin cleared his throat. "My queen, Lord Rathkin, has demanded a formal audience. He claims the right to challenge your decision under ancient law." "What kind of challenge?" Teho asked. Princess Kivera answered. "If enough nobles support him, they can invoke the trial of worth. It's an old law that allows the court to test whether someone is worthy to mate with the queen." "What does the trial involve?" "3 tests, Queen Velnara explained. Combat, wisdom, and sacrifice. Each test is designed to prove that the candidate has the qualities needed to stand beside the ruler of the Empire. And if I fail, then the engagement is cancelled and you return to human space. The life debt would be considered paid through your attempt. And if I pass, then no one can question your worthiness or my decision." Teho thought about it. The situation had spiraled far beyond a simple rescue operation. Now he was caught in the middle of alien politics with the stability of an entire empire potentially at stake. "There's something else you should know," Princess Kivera said quietly. "In Kethtai culture, queens mate for life. If you accept this, there's no going back. Ever." The weight of the decision settled on Teho's shoulders. Accepting meant leaving humanity behind forever. Refusing might cause a civil war that could kill millions. But there was something else, something he was only beginning to admit to himself. During his 2 weeks in the palace, he had spent time with Queen Velnara. She was intelligent, strong, and deeply committed to her people. She carried the burden of an entire civilization with grace and determination. He found himself admiring her, even caring about her. "If I agree to this trial," Teho said slowly, "and if I pass, what would our relationship really be like?" Queen Velnara considered the question. "I cannot promise love, but I can promise respect and partnership. We would rule together, make decisions together, face challenges together. Is that enough?" "I don't know," Teho admitted, "but I'm willing to find out." The queen smiled, the first genuine smile he had seen from her. "Then you accept the trial?" "I accept." Princess Kivera looked relieved. Commander Drakvin looked worried. Queen Velnara moved to her communication console. "Summon the court," she commanded. "Tell Lord Rathkin that his challenge is accepted. The trial of worth will begin in 3 days." As the others left to make preparations, Queen Velnara touched Teho's arm gently. "Thank you," she said, "for saving my daughter, and for taking this risk. Thank you for giving me the choice, even if it's a difficult one." That night, Teho stood on his balcony looking up at the alien stars. In 3 days, he would face tests that could determine the fate of 2 civilizations. But for the first time since arriving on the Kethtai homeworld, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The great arena of the Kethtai capital had not been used for a trial of worth in over 300 years. As Taeho walked onto the main floor, he could feel the weight of thousands of eyes watching him. The entire court had gathered to witness this historic event. Many were clearly hoping to see him fail. Queen Velnara sat on a raised platform with Princess Kivera beside her. Her face showed no emotion, but Taeho could see the tension in her posture. Lord Rathican stood with his supporters on the opposite side of the arena, smiling confidently. "Let the trial of worth begin," announced the court herald. "The first test is combat." Taeho had been dreading this moment. Kethtai were naturally stronger and faster than humans. In hand-to-hand combat he would have no chance. But as the details of the test were explained, he realized it was more complex than simple fighting. The candidate must demonstrate tactical ability by commanding forces in simulated battle, the herald continued. He will face 3 scenarios against our finest military strategists. A massive holographic display appeared in the center of the arena. It showed a star system with planets, asteroid fields, and space stations. Commander Drakvin stepped forward to explain the rules. "You will command a fleet of 100 ships. Your goal is to defeat enemy forces while protecting civilian populations. You have 30 minutes for each scenario." The first scenario placed Taeho in command of a defensive fleet protecting a colony world. The enemy had superior numbers and was approaching from multiple directions. Traditional Kethtai strategy would be to meet them head-on with maximum force. Instead, Taeho did something unexpected. He divided his fleet into small groups and used hit-and-run tactics. While the enemy focused on hunting his scattered forces, he slipped a small strike team past their lines and destroyed their command ship. Without central coordination, the enemy fleet fell apart. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the crowd. Lord Rathkin's smile faded slightly. The second scenario was even more challenging. Taeho had to rescue hostages from a space station while enemy ships guarded all the approaches. The Kethtai way would be to assault the station directly, accepting heavy casualties as the price of victory. Taeho studied the tactical display for several minutes. Then he ordered his ships to begin a massive bombardment of empty space near the station. The enemy commanders thought he had made a mistake and moved to take advantage of his apparently poor positioning. But Taeho had been creating a debris field. When the enemy ships moved into the perfect position, he detonated explosives hidden in the debris. The surprise attack disabled most of the enemy fleet without damaging the station or harming the hostages. Even some of Lord Rathkin's supporters were nodding with approval now. This human was proving to be more clever than anyone had expected. The third scenario was the most difficult. Taeho had to choose between saving a human colony or a Kethtai outpost. Both were under attack, and his fleet could only reach one in time. It seemed like an impossible choice designed to make him fail. "I refuse the premise of this test," Taeho announced. The arena fell silent. Refusing a test was almost unheard of. "I will save both," he continued. "Give me access to civilian ships and mining equipment." What followed was the most complex military operation anyone had ever seen in a simulation. Taeho used civilian vessels as decoys, mining charges as weapons, and even turned asteroids into missiles. His fleet split into dozens of small groups, each with a specific mission. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. While the enemy fleets focused on his military ships, his improvised forces struck at their weak points. Both the human colony and the Kethtai outpost were saved with minimal casualties. The arena erupted in cheers. Even Lord Rathkin looked impressed. Princess Kivera was grinning with obvious pride. "The second test is wisdom," the herald announced. For this test, Taeho had to judge a legal dispute between 2 powerful Kethtai houses. House Kelevar claimed that House Morin had cheated them in a trade agreement. House Morin claimed they had followed the letter of the law. Both sides presented evidence and arguments that went on for hours. The traditional Kethtai approach would be to determine who was technically correct, according to the law, then punish the other party severely. But as Taeho listened to both sides, he realized that the real problem was deeper than the specific dispute. "Both houses are correct according to the strict letter of the law," he announced when it was time for his judgment. "But both have also acted dishonorably according to the spirit of the law." The crowd stirred uneasily. This was not what they expected. "House Kelevar, you tried to use legal technicalities to get a better deal than you deserved. House Morin, You deliberately misled your trading partners while staying technically within the law. You both put profit ahead of honor. Taeho proposed a solution that surprised everyone. Instead of punishment, he suggested that both houses work together on a new trade agreement that would benefit them equally. They would also establish a joint fund to help smaller houses that had been hurt by their dispute. This teaches everyone that true strength comes from cooperation, not from defeating others, he explained. Lord Rathkin objected loudly. This is not justice. Someone must be punished. Why? Taeho asked. If the goal is to prevent future problems and help people who were hurt, isn't it better to focus on solutions instead of punishment? Queen Velnara spoke for the first time since the trial began. The candidate shows wisdom beyond his years. His solution serves the good of the empire better than traditional punishment. The final test was sacrifice. Taeho expected another simulation, but instead, alarms began sounding throughout the capital. This was real. A space station in the outer system is under attack by pirates, Commander Drakvan reported. They have taken hostages and are demanding ransom. This is your test, the herald announced. Lead a rescue mission and bring back the hostages safely. What's the sacrifice? Taeho asked. The station has both human and Kethtai civilians aboard. The pirates are demanding that we choose which group to save. They claim they will only release one group or the other. As Taeho prepared for the mission, Princess Kyvera approached him. Be careful, she said. This test is designed to be impossible. No matter what you choose, someone will die. Then I'll have to change the rules again, Taeho replied. The rescue mission was dangerous and complex. The space station was heavily defended and the pirates were well armed and desperate. But Taeho had learned something important during his time with the Kethtai. Sometimes the best way to win was to do something completely unexpected. Instead of attacking the station, he surrendered himself to the pirates in exchange for all the hostages. It was a massive risk, but it worked. The pirates were so surprised by his offer that they lowered their guard. When the Kethtai rescue team arrived, they found Taeho had already disabled most of the pirates' weapons and freed the hostages. During the final battle, Taeho was seriously wounded while protecting a group of children, but everyone was saved, both human and Kethtai. When he returned to the arena carried on a medical stretcher, the entire court rose to their feet in applause. Even Lord Rathkin was clapping. The trial of worth is complete, Queen Velnara announced. Li Taeho has proven himself worthy in combat, wisdom, and sacrifice. Does anyone challenge this judgment? The arena was silent. No one dared to argue with what they had witnessed. As medical personnel took Taeho to the royal hospital, he felt Queen Velnara take his hand. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. We did it, he corrected. This is just the beginning. Taeho spent 3 weeks recovering in the Royal Medical Center. His injuries from the rescue mission had been severe, but Kethtai medical technology was advanced. More importantly, he had time to think about what came next. Queen Velnara visited him every day. At first their conversations were formal and careful, but gradually they began talking about real things. She told him about the burden of ruling an empire, the loneliness of making decisions that affected billions of lives. He shared stories about his time as a medic, about the people he had saved and the ones he couldn't save. Do you regret coming here? She asked one afternoon as they sat in the medical center's garden. No, Taeho replied honestly, but I'm still not sure what I'm doing. Neither am I, the queen admitted. I've ruled for 20 years, but I've never had a partner. I'm not even sure how it's supposed to work. Princess Kyvera joined them often during these conversations. She had become an unexpected ally, helping them understand each other's cultures. She had studied human customs and could explain things that confused her mother. Humans mate for love, Kyvera said during one discussion, but they also choose their partners based on compatibility and shared values. Maybe you two have more in common than you think. Taeho was beginning to see what she meant. Despite their different species and backgrounds, he and Queen Velnara shared similar values. They both believed in protecting the innocent, in making difficult choices for the greater good, in the importance of honor and duty. There's something I need to tell you, Queen Velnara said when they were alone one evening. When I first announced our engagement, it was purely political, a way to pay the life debt and possibly improve relations between our species. And now I find myself caring about your opinion. I value our conversations. I look forward to seeing you each day. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I believe humans would call this developing feelings. Teho felt his heart race. I've been developing feelings too. You're not what I expected when I first heard about the terrible Kethtai Queen. Terrible? That's what human propaganda called you during the war. They said you were ruthless and cold. Queen Velnara laughed, a sound that was both alien and beautiful. I suppose I am ruthless when I need to be. But I've never felt cold around you. When Teho was finally released from the medical center, he found that his life in the palace had changed completely. No longer a guest or prisoner, he was now the Queen's official consort-elect. He had his own staff, his own responsibilities, and his own role in running the empire. But the biggest changes were happening outside the palace. News of the Trial of Worth had spread throughout Kethtai space and into human territory. Some people on both sides were angry about the alliance, but others were hopeful. It was the first real cooperation between the two species since the war ended. Commander Drakvan had become one of Teho's strongest supporters. You've shown us new ways of thinking, he admitted. My people have always believed that strength comes from domination. You've proven that sometimes strength comes from cooperation. The formal engagement ceremony was scheduled for the anniversary of the mining colony rescue, exactly 6 months after Teho had first met Princess Kaivera. Representatives from dozens of worlds would attend, including a delegation from Earth. But first, there was one more challenge to face. The Alliance Council wants to meet with you, Queen Velnara told him as they reviewed the ceremony preparations. Both human and Kethtai governments want to discuss what this marriage means for future relations. The meeting took place on a neutral space station at the border between human and Kethtai territory. Teho found himself facing skeptical officials from both sides who questioned his motives and his loyalty. How do we know you haven't been brainwashed? Asked Admiral Chen from Earth's government. How do we know you won't betray Empire secrets to your human friends? Demanded Lord Veltok from the Kethtai Council. Teho answered their questions patiently. He explained his decision to accept the engagement, his hopes for the future, and his commitment to both species. I'm not choosing between humanity and the Kethtai, he said finally. I'm choosing to build bridges between them. My children will be part human and part Kethtai. They'll belong to both worlds. And if there's another war, Admiral Chen pressed, then I'll work to prevent it. That's what partnerships are for. After hours of discussion, both governments agreed to support the marriage as an official alliance. It was a historic moment, but Teho was more nervous about the wedding ceremony itself. The day of the ceremony was perfect. The 3 moons of the Kethtai homeworld shone brightly in a clear sky. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the great plaza outside the royal palace. Humans and Kethtai stood side by side for the first time in years. Teho wore a specially designed outfit that combined human and Kethtai formal wear. Queen Velnara was magnificent in traditional royal robes that had been modified to include human symbols of partnership. Princess Kivera served as the ceremony officiant, a role traditionally filled by the heir to the throne. As she spoke the ancient words that would bind them together, Teho thought about how far they had all come since that day in the collapsed mine. Do you, Li Teho, accept the responsibility of standing beside the Queen of the Kethtai Empire? Will you share her burdens, support her decisions, and help her protect our people? I do. Do you, Queen Velnara, accept this being as your partner and equal? Will you share your power, trust his judgment, and stand with him against all challenges? I do. When they sealed the bond with a traditional Kethtai gesture of intertwined arms, the crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard for miles. Fireworks filled the sky and the celebration began. But the most important moment came later when they were finally alone in their private chambers. Are you happy? Queen Velnara asked as they stood on their balcony looking out at the city. Yes, Teho replied. Are you? I am. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their people celebrate below. Human and Kethtai children played together in the streets. Merchants from both species were already making plans for new trade routes. Soldiers who had been enemies were now working together as allies. What happens now? Teho asked. Now we build the future together. There will be challenges. Probably more wars to prevent, definitely more crises to solve. But we'll face them as partners. 1 year later, Teho stood in the same spot on the balcony, holding his newborn daughter. She was perfect. With her mother's intelligence and strength and what he hoped were his compassion and creativity, she would grow up in a galaxy where humans and Kethtai were allies instead of enemies. Princess Kyvera, now officially his stepdaughter, had become the Empire's first ambassador to human space. Her first mission was to establish a joint colony where both species could live and work together. "She's beautiful," Queen Velnara said, joining him at the balcony. "She's going to change the galaxy," Tejo replied, just like her father did. As they watched the sunset paint the alien sky in brilliant colors, Tejo reflected on the journey that had brought him here. It had started with a simple rescue mission and had led to something he never could have imagined. He had saved a life and found a love that transcended species, a partnership that would reshape the future of two civilizations. The best part was that it was only the beginning.